Alright, welcome back guys to a new series that I'm going to be starting. It's going to be called Hero Maker series. Um, I'm just going to say now, I'm autistic when it comes to making video game characters. Characters in general, it's always been a very autistic little quirk of mine, little kink you may call it. Now, I've done this a lot, as you'll see when I get off of this screen and we move on to the second part of describing what exactly we're going to do. You'll see exactly how many characters that I've been making so far, and I've made weapons as well as too, and we're going to be doing that in a separate series. But for this first video, I'm just going to go over the basics, and then in the next video, we're going to get started with our first character that we're going to look at. So the first character we're going to look at is the first character I ever made stats for, Camillex. Very similar to Chameleon because it's based off of a hybrid of a girl and a chameleon. Because in my world, the game's world, I'll explain the story in a separate video that'll be coming out later. There's basically human hybrids and human hybrids of animals, kind of like Animorphs, if you ever remember that book series. Basically humans that are half human, half animal. And my first character happens to be half chameleon, so her traits, her abilities, her passive, her primary are very relatable to chameleons, their natural defenses, as well as some human traits. So let's begin with talking about what you need in order to make an FPS character. Now, the game that I'm working on is similar to Valorant and Overwatch, very basically just a hybridization of the two. More similar to Overwatch, but it has some Valorant characteristics. It also has some League characteristics when it comes to passives and energy. But other energy is the energy mechanic is similar to the mana mechanic, and as you need energy in order to use your abilities, just like you need mana in order to I guess not buy, but use your abilities. Cost of mana, energy, percentage, same thing. So first of all, I want to get into what you're going to need for a FPS character, the basics, and then I want to get into some complexities, and then we're going to begin in the next video with talking about the first character. I'll use examples, and then we will get started going down the list of all the characters I've made, and I'm going to show you how to write down the data, how to, whichever style you like to use. I like to use vertical stat alignment, but we're also going to be converting my vertical stats to horizontal alignment if you much rather want to see horizontal or vertical. There is a diagonal way to do this, but I'm not going to do the diagonal because it's a little more complex and harder to read. Anyway, so let's get started. So the best thing to do for an FPS is to first get an idea of what you want your game to be, and then your first few characters you want to fill your roles. So the three basic roles are damage, tank, and healer or aid, support. So you want to get at least 3 to 5 characters and fill those roles out. My first 10 characters, as I'll probably describe later, they all fit those roles. I think there were 2 tanks, 4 DPS, and 4 healers. So I was able to have a base 10 of 4 damage characters, 2 tanks, and 4 healers. You probably want the same number. You want to probably have more DPS, more damage heroes than healers, but I just wanted to make it equal because I think that more games should have more healers than damage, just because I think it evens it out a little bit. I tried to make more roles. As you'll see in the top left corner, the role is Diversion. Diversion is a type of DPS. It's basically a flank character. A Diversion is just a damage character that does a little bit less damage but has more mobility, and that is why they're called a Diversion. Playstyle, as you can see below, role is Flank. Camillex is a flanking Diversion character, so a DPS character with mobility, and uses that mobility to flank more often than not. And description you can see is Chameleon Girl, a hybrid of a chameleon and a girl. Alright, so let's get off this, and the first thing you're going to see is that I've done a lot more heroes than just this. As you can see, I've done a lot more heroes than just Camillex, but now we're going to move on to her stat sheet. So this is the horizontal stat sheet of Camillex. Of course, I haven't put anything because in our first video, we're going to be converting to the horizontal stats. And I'm just going to go through these stats one by one, and then in the first video with Camillex, I'm going to go over this. This is the vertical stat sheet. This is the system that I use. And just as an example, we'll go over here. As you can see, a lot of stats. But this is the vertical stat sheet for Camillex that I've copied from the Google Sheet that has a lot more heroes than just Camillex. As you can see, there is a W1 through 4. That is wave 1 through 4. I've made, well, now I'm working on wave 21, but in this sheet alone, there are 4 different waves of characters. If you want to see how many characters are in a wave, there's a lot of characters that are in one wave. This is wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and then all the way down to new waves, all the way down to wave 21, which I'm currently working on. So I've done a lot of characters, but Camillex is in wave 1. She is not the first character that I've brainstormed. She's the second character I've brainstormed before. The first character that I brainstormed is Jax, who's all the way down here. Jackson McMahon. We'll be going over him in another video, later video. But for right now, I just wanted to show you guys the basics of the stat sheet. So now you know this is the vertical alignment, and in our first video, I'm going to be showing you how I came up with these stats, what these stats mean, what these numbers mean, what these X's mean, what these colors mean. But first, I'm just going to go through these basic categories and just introduce you to the world of stat making for FPS characters. So first, your hero name, basic, just hero name. We'd put Camillex, Jackson, Harry, Bob, Jenkins, Psych. We just put any hero name in that. Then a description. For Camillex, I put Chameleon Girl because she is a hybrid of a chameleon and a girl. There's more descriptions you can add for this. Batgirl, a girl that is both a bat and a girl. But Champ, of course, has 4 arms, so I put Quad Fighter, so I would know that he has 4 arms, quad, and he's a fighter. He's a fighter that fights with a 2 sets of arms. Playstyle and substyle. We're going to be adding substyle, but playstyle is just the mechanic. If you were Sniper, Gunslinger, those are 2 playstyles. Soaker, a tank that can take a lot of damage. I'm trying to think of others. Charger, character that charges into battle. Dive tank, we all know that. They go into battle, then they can get back out, dive back in again. Burst character, someone who uses burst fire weapons or burst fire attacks. A bunch of attacks in a short amount of time, and then has to cool down before releasing another wave of attacks, another burst of attacks. Flank, person who flanks a lot. Mobility, someone who's good at mobility. Trapper, someone who puts down a lot of traps. Defense, shielders put down shields, have a lot of shields. Defense puts down turrets, walls, ladders, stairs, fences, gates. Basically, someone just puts down a lot of structures for defense. What else? Trickster, someone who tricks, manipulates people, takes weapons, steals stuff, curses people with hexes people. Mage, someone who uses magic to attack. A bunch of different playstyles exist, but you would put your playstyle here. Your substyle is just a playstyle that sometimes characters have 2 playstyles. We'll come across some characters that you could technically make the argument that they have 2 playstyles in one. The Juggernaut playstyle, for example, has multiple playstyles. So many playstyles that you can't conceive of. You can't just put Trapper and Trickster. Maybe they're a Trapper, Trickster, Defense, and a Burst character. So you just put Juggernaut because they're more than 4. I say usually more than 4 for a Juggernaut playstyle because you can just add a bunch of substyles. Anyway, once we get into the attacks, we have the primary and the optional primary. The op primary is when they may have 2 weapons that they use at once, like a dual pistol. They have 2 pistols, so 1 pistol, 2 pistols, dual pistols. Passive and opt passive. Sometimes they have 2 passives, but usually they just have 1. Passive abilities, for example, are passive self-healing, which most healers have. Passive shield generation, temporary shield generation. Sometimes characters can eat corpses. I know in League of Legends there's a character that can eat an enemy's corpse to gain health. That'd be a passive. A passive ability is just an ability that doesn't take any energy. It just passively runs. It doesn't need any mana cost or any energy costs. It just happens passively. You can do it whenever you want, no cooldowns necessary. Optional passive is just an optional second passive. Let's say that Corpse Eater is a healer, so he has both passive healing and can eat corpses to gain health back. So they have 2 passives. Then you have your abilities. I have 8 ability slots because that is the maximum amount of ability slots that I think are useful. Again, a character is not going to have 8 abilities, but these are just all optional abilities you can put into the game. Let's say you have 5 abilities, but one of them isn't working out. You can either swap it for ability 6 to ability 5, or just axe ability 5 altogether and have the character only have 4 abilities. You just want to have 8 ability options just in case one ability doesn't work out and you can swap it with another one. And finally, your ultimate categories and your health categories. Your ultimate, opt ultimate, some characters have 2 ultimates. Some games elect that characters have 2 ultimates. I know Symmetra and Overwatch used to have 2 ultimates. And a character could either pick to use a teleporter or shield generator. These ultimates just mean that these are your ultimate abilities. You charge up all game, do enough damage, healing, whatever, saves, assists, kills, to charge up an ultimate ability that is supposed to be the game winner for your team. An optional ability is just that they have 2 abilities that the player can choose from. Very rare that they're going to have 2 ultimate abilities, but those characters exist, and I've definitely made a lot of them. And then finally is health pool. How much HP do they have? Do they have 200, 150, 500, 1000? It just matters on this. Most tanks will have more than 400, will have 400 and above. Most diversion characters will have less health than the average character, and the average health is usually around 200 to 250. So yeah, that is going to be our basic video covering all these stats. Of course, for our first video, we're going to be looking at Camillex. I'm going to show you what all of this information means, all of this information, the color palette, and we're going to be converting this vertical stat block to this horizontal stat block, so then you can understand how this works and how my mind works and how this can help you in your stat making for your own personal video games and own personal characters and FPS characters. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you like it. I'll see you guys next time. Toodaloo!